Mysore Chakras, episode 197.
Doing the same thing and expecting a different result is one that often pops up for me.
The 7 chakras, swirling vortices of energy, positioned throughout our body from the base of the spine to the crown of the head. For thousands of years, this ancient wisdom has been passed on from master to disciple. What are the functions of these energy centers? And could these chakras help you unlock your destiny and find your true purpose? Welcome to My 7 Chakras. And now, your host, Aditya Jai Kumar.
What's up, Action Tribe? AJ here, founder and host of My 7 Chakras, the show where we dive deep into the ancient world to uncover nuggets of wisdom that will help you find your life's purpose. So if you know that you're on a quest to find out the mysteries of life, then take a deep breath because you are listening to the right show. Now, before we dive deep into the interview, let's listen to today's iTunes review written by Eliza, who says, "This podcast has been a real bright spot for me this year, quite unexpectedly. The teachers highlighted come from a wide range of backgrounds, and chakras are just one of the many topics presented. Aditya's questions are fast moving and well targeted, and even when the topic isn't one I think I'll be drawn to, I almost always come away inspired by the person's story and happier for having listened." So thanks a lot for the love, Eliza. Action Tribe, if you want your review to be read out as well, make sure you share your views and experiences in the form of an iTunes review. If you've never written a review before, it's super simple. All you need to do is go to your iPhone and hit the reviews button and then hit write a review. Even one review from you is a giant leap for our show. If you'd like to connect with me via email, you can always reach out to me at aj@my7chakras.com. And having said that, it's now time for us to get to know our featured guest for today, David Bransky. So David, are you ready to inspire?
I am ready to inspire.
Perfect. So David is an acknowledged contributor to a worldwide movement towards shifting consciousness and improving the overall quality of life for those who he comes in contact with on a regular basis. Collaborating the use of Alphabiotics and his unique and direct touch is able to help people instantly shift from a life-depleting state to a more naturally centered and positive state. Those who have had the privilege of participating in David's alignment process experience balance, less tension and stress, more strength and energy, mental clarity and focus, feel less pain, look younger, and possess greater inner peace. All qualities and experiences that we would like to have. So David, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me with you.
Wonderful. So let's begin with a dose of inspiration like we always do. David, what is your favorite inspirational quote, and how does that apply to your day-to-day life?
The most recent quote I tend to come up with in my head quite often is from Einstein. It's based on insanity. Doing the same thing and expecting a different result is one that often pops up for me. And the main reason why I use that as of late is just oftentimes people are trying different things, but then they're always coming back to the same result. And it's where people who tend to complain or gripe about their situation, yet do nothing different or take the next big giant leap. In our line of work, we're always helping people and trying to shift the way that they're thinking, and the results tend to change on its own, which is lovely to see.
Wonderful. Thanks a lot for sharing that. This is truly a profound quote. Action Tribe, our movement is all about taking action. But along with taking action, you need to be aware. You need to develop that awareness so that you know whether or not that action is working for you. So it's all about taking those calculated experiments and trying out different stuff. Because if you do the same thing, you will experience the same result again and again. So thanks a lot for sharing, David. And with that, let's dive in. Alphabiotics. What exactly is that?
Well, there's a philosophy to Alphabiotics. So it's a hands-on process that we use. And it's a very unique, very quick, and very invigorating way of helping someone essentially reboot or reset, much like a computer would have to go through. A better way to look at what Alphabiotics does is first understanding how we operate as human beings, how we function, how we're supposed to function, and what stress is and what stress does to us to throw us off our center of direction. And so there's two types of stress. There's a simple stress, and then there's complex stress. And in this day and age, unlike a primitive hunter who meets a wild beast, there's a fight or flight response that we have. This has been developed for hundreds of thousands of years. Just in the last 7 or 8 generations in itself, just in the last 150 years, everything is speeding up so fast that we are bombarded by all these different types of stimulations, stress, mental, physical, chemical, electromagnetic, gravity. So in essence, stress is not a bad thing. It's just a stimulation. So changing your diet, meeting somebody new, the weather improving, a better job, relocating. Those are good stressors, but still, again, your body does not know how to really decipher and deal with the stress appropriately. When we're dealing with stress, we lock into one side of our brain. And so one side of our brain slows down its speed and the other side speeds up. And so there's speeds that we label them as. So beta is the average speed that people are in when they're in a fight or flight, go, day-to-day response. A slower speed that the alphabiotic alignment puts somebody in instantly runs between 7 and 14 cycles per second. And what that does is that's kind of like a natural idle speed for the brain. And then there's slower speeds, like if you were to take a nice warm shower or swimming in the ocean, or if you have several hours of uninterrupted sleep, you drop down into a theta speed where there's less ego activity. You're more in an inner directed state of being. You're more calm. The slowest speed, which there's very, very little brain activity, is called delta, which is very rare where people tend to get into that state as easily just because of our cell phones waking us up, or our long nights just working too often and we have to wake up earlier the next day. So we're not in a rest and recovery period as often and as easily as our previous generations. And this is also for big city people. I mean, those who live like on an island, like in Tahiti or something like that, they're not going to have as many stimulations, and so they're not as off balance in the same way as someone if you find them in a very busy hustle and bustle city. So oftentimes when someone is in that imbalanced state, it's through a lifetime. So what we're finding is that when the brain is active to one side and inactive to another, the body will express imbalance. So the right side of your brain is the more creative, artistic, visual, psychic side, and that controls the left side of your body. So there's this crossover. So the left side of your hemisphere, which is the more analytical, linear, mathematical side of your brain, controls the right side of your body. So when the brain goes off balance, the body follows suit. And we can measure this. You can actually see this even if you're sitting down right now and you have your feet in front of you. You'll be able to see one leg shorter than the other. And it's not because of bone shortness. It's simply because the muscles on one side of your body are more contracted, pulling that leg up into the hip, pulling the hip up, pulling a shoulder up. And this is an excellent example of someone locked in a stress response, a fear-based protective mindset. And so the incredible benefits that we have through this alphabiotic alignment process is that we have found, first and foremost, that you're energetic. You're not just a physical being. Okay, there's energy information that passes through you all the time. And your brain is an energy transmitting, energy absorbing, and works in a priority way system. So you have 70 trillion cells in the average person. That's a lot of cells. And we find that each cell is like a human being. They have an endocrine system, digestive system, nervous system. They have all the systems the same as a person does. And they all need to harmonize and get along with one another in order to function. So there's an oscillation or a spin that occurs. Well, the cells respond in either a regenerative way, going towards something beneficial, or moving away from something harmful. You cannot do one or the other. It's either you are pregnant or not pregnant. There's no kind of sort of maybe in between.
Right.
And if the brain expresses imbalance, it's telling your entire nervous system, prepare for battle. And the alarms might not be very loud, but it's on. And so through a lifetime, people are experiencing anxiety. They're experiencing all these symptoms of what a stress response does, much like a soldier at the front lines of a battle. There's no battle that's occurring. And if you take the soldier back home from their 1 year or 2 years of duty, they're still in a battle mode, even though they know there's no battle that's occurring. So there's never an end cycle through this fight or flight response. And what we have in Alphabiotics is a way to effectively help people come out of that stress state and instantly come back into harmony and balance with themselves. Muscles relax, weak areas that were shut down turn back on, your brain hemispheres integrate, and you come back into this wake-up alpha speed. And so you come back into a regenerative state of being. And this is the goal that we're helping people with, is reconnect back to this life energy and using it in a more effective way. Much like what people do for many, many generations in yoga. It wasn't just some sort of physical movement that's very popular in the United States and elsewhere. But India and its surroundings have been doing yoga for many, many years, deep meditation. And the goal was to yoga back to a balance. The problem this day and age is that the stressors are compounded and we don't have a chance to come back into balance anymore. And that's where we're getting the great results in doing this hands-on alignment process. So it's all about brain function. And anybody out there, if you really kind of want to test yourself and see, are you right brain dominant or left brain dominant? Because everybody has a dominant hemisphere. The downfall is staying stuck in your dominant hemisphere. So preferably at the end of the day, when you're all wound up and overly stimulated from the day-to-day, from your go-go actions while you're awake, if you were to sit down and you were to take your hands and measure them up in some way over your head, you want to lengthen your arms to the ceiling as high as possible. One arm will not be able to reach as well as the other, and they'll be able to feel a more contracted, pulled side. Same thing here also with your feet, your legs. If you were to sit down with your legs straight in front of you, you'll be able to see how one is shorter than the other. And there's a way, it's only one way to really do this. You cannot do this on your own, unfortunately. So it's a technique that we've learned, that we've developed, and we've learned it from the family who had created this about 100 years ago, just through intuition and logic, realizing that gravity was the ultimate stress. So this alignment, if you can envision laying on your back on this particular type of massage table, but it's a bit more narrow than the average massage table, and there's a head extension that occurs. There's a stretch from your head to your body, and it's not a manipulation. There's no structural, physical repositioning of your body, but this extension is a high sensory input where it allows the wisdom within you to recalibrate and reassess the situation and come out of fight or flight. And then immediately strength on both sides of your body are restored. And those are simple ways that we have people when they come in to let them know, first, there's a problem, and secondly, after the alignment, how everything instantly turns back on. So it's about a 15-second process that it takes, but it lasts for about 72 hours at the beginning. And then our goal is to have somebody hold alignment longer and longer periods of time between visits or alignment sessions.
Got it. Well, that's a lot of information. Thanks a lot for sharing. A couple of things. You said that Alphabiotics is a hands-on process, which is quick, unique, and invigorating. And you spoke to us about the fact that when we are stressed, we lock into one side of the brain, and the body will often express imbalance, often physically, like the test that you gave us about the hands and legs. And as far as the brain is concerned, beta state is the flight or fight mode, and a slow speed is a more natural speed for the brain. The slower it gets, the more relaxed we are. So, for example, you gave us the example of the theta state where there's less ego activity and we experience greater peace, and then the delta state, which is a more rare state to achieve. And I'm sure advanced meditators and yogis can experience this at will. Now, on your website, and you also mentioned that you help people instantly shift from a life-depleting state to a more naturally centered and positive state. So my question is, what are some of the symptoms of a life-depleted state? You've alluded to that a bit, but it would be great if you could elaborate on what are the symptoms of a life-depleted state, just so that our listeners can get a better understanding.
There are several. Most who come in seeking help have tried other types of modalities, and they're not getting the benefit they are hoping to receive. And oftentimes we tend to make a change in our lives when we're experiencing physical trauma or discomfort, pain. Oftentimes people experience pain in their lower back or neck or something of that nature. Yeah. And of course, it's normally found on one side over the other. And again, it comes down to that imbalance. Which side are they normally favoring and more contracted on? Our goal with the process is not to get people out of pain. Our goal is not to take away any of the symptoms. Our goal simply is to just help people reconnect back to this life energy. So besides the physical, most of our stress is mental and emotional, and it turns into physical, but most of it is our negative self-thinking. So if you're sitting in a room all by yourself, the birds chirping outside and the sun is beating on your face, still, again, you can create your own stress. Shouldn't you be doing something more productive with your life? Why are you in this situation with this person? You know, it's all of these different kinds of social pressures that we tend to put on ourselves. And so it's self-perpetuating. And that's one of the biggest challenges that people face just with themselves. Anxiety is a very common one to find. Attention to detail and focusing on a task at hand is becoming more and more of a challenge for those who I see. They're just bombarded. They're overwhelmed with things. So it's very hard for them to stay grounded and centered in their own space. Irritability, just emotional imbalance in general, as though like the fuse that they have, there's 1,000 fuses they have and they're all ready to just go at once. Again, the sensation of feeling overwhelmed, depressed is often another sensation that people feel. And this is all normal for someone who is just overstimulated. They don't have time to digest the day-to-day activity, the things that they have on their plate mentally. And it's common. So what's interesting is that everybody I talk to knows, for the most part, that they have some sort of problem. They know something's bugging them. They know they're off track in some way. They just can't figure out what the main issue is. And if we look outside of ourselves and we see everybody around, it's such a common thing to see that abnormal is so common, we don't know what normal looks like anymore. And in this day in society, we're so focused on the problems and the symptoms, we tend not to focus too often on just coming back to ourselves and giving our own time and space to reintegrate stuff that we haven't probably digested from the past. An emotional upset, divorce, losing a job, and problems with kids, societal problems. And there's a way to get back into this centered state. And when you're balanced and centered, you're like an antenna, like a beacon for other people to remember what being in balance and being centered looks and feels like. And we need more people in that state.
Got it. Now, how is Alphabiotics different from chiropractic, for example?
It's like night and day. Apples and oranges, really. It's very different. To many who, if they've seen someone experience an alphabiotic alignment, it appears as though there's some sort of chiropractic technique. But with chiropractic, the goal was to help people restructure, to get flow back into their body. And it's incredible work, but the alignment that we do is sending an impulse, an energetic reset to the brain. And the brain is what put the body out of alignment. It's also the same power that puts the body back into alignment. What creates structural imbalance are muscles. What tells a muscle to contract? What tells a muscle to relax? Gravity, much like a missile going to a destination or a rocket going to the moon, it's always making these very minute calculations to get itself back on track. That's the same thing what everybody has to deal with gravity, standing on 2 feet. So most of our life energy, believe it or not, is actually just relating to our own gravitational field, just gravity in itself. So gravity is so heavy that we have to lie down on our backs for at least 6 to 8 hours just to regenerate, for the body, for the spine, the muscles, everything to expand and relax, to regenerate. But it's a very big difference. Chiropractors do not work on the brain. They can only go up to the atlas, and the person after a chiropractic adjustment does not hold that adjustment any longer than 20 minutes. So if someone were to get adjusted, walk around, come back to that chiropractor and get checked again, they will not hold alignment. So the body immediately goes out. And so chiropractors now have to use different kinds of instruments to relax muscles, to do anything they can to really kind of get their body back down to a more relaxed state. Because again, the brain is what does that, and they can't get to the brain. And that's a big difference as to where we are. We're helping people use their life energy where it knows what it needs to do. Chiropractors look at the structural imbalance. We do not. We see that imbalance, it just indicates that you're using your life energy inappropriately. So it's very, very different.
Got it.
We've proven also that it's different completely.
Now, I've read that you help patients receive a reboot effect. Is that correct?
It is. It's exactly what we do.
So what's really taking place during this process, during this reboot effect? Could you elaborate on that, please?
Well, so the first step, once you experience, we align twice on each side of this table or the person's head, the left side and the right side. When this happens, there is an energetic interrupt that occurs. Oftentimes, people's breathing deepens. You'll see for a brief moment that their eyes will go into a rapid eye movement. The brain integrates and slows down to the speed, again, called alpha. The overly tight and tense muscles on one side relax to its normal level of tonus. The opposite side of the body, the muscles turn back on. So we do a strength test, and before an alignment and after an alignment, to show the person and for them to feel the difference. One side of the body will hold strength very well. The other side of the body will go very passive and weak. After the alignment, when the brain balances, the body follows suit. And so strength will be equal on both sides of the body. It's experiential. It's very hard to describe it in comparison to how it feels. But I can guarantee every single time someone gets on the table and the alignment occurs, they come back into balance. Cells replicate normally as opposed to abnormally. Sleep oftentimes is much deeper because now we're in a resting state. Oftentimes our peripheral vision tends to open back up. When we're in a stress response, we tend to focus in a very fixated position on things. And so our vision tends to improve afterwards. Speaking of vision, I've had several people who have been legally blind or deaf, and through the alignment, coming in for different reasons besides this, the byproduct of coming back into balance, their hearing has improved, their vision has improved, and this has happened so often, you tend to get used to seeing these things. So what it is really quite impressive as to what we are capable of doing when we come out of this stress response, fight or flight.
Got it. So you spoke about a couple of things here. First, you said the REM, rapid eye movement. At some point, the brain integrates, gets into alpha, and the muscles relax and turn back on. A lot of changes in a short period of time. But let's talk about the patient now. Just imagine the patient's eye is closed and just the patient is experiencing this alignment. What exactly is the patient feeling at this point? Or does it change from patient to patient? I'm just trying to get an idea, because if you look at Reiki, sometimes patients tend to feel this warm, tingly sensation in certain parts of the body. So as far as Alphabiotics is concerned, I'm just trying to understand what can a patient experience or feel exactly.
Well, it is different for everybody. And your first alignment can be different sensation than 10 alignments in. than 20 alignments in. So the more tight and contracted and blocked and stressed you are, the more you tend to feel the alignment occur. And so as time goes on, it's a process where people come in on a regular basis, and they'll feel the alignment less often. It's more of a fluid sensation. Oftentimes people feel their spine lengthened. They'll feel blood flow and warmth passing on through their entire body. They will feel less tension throughout, that they're able to move their body more easily. Their posture is restored. They will feel more relaxed, yes, yet re-energized. Those are very common attributes that occur. The other thing also for myself I could share, that the negative self-thinking dissipates. In fact, almost all head noise is pretty much gone. The incredible thing is how much inner peace someone feels, and it's instant. So all the unnecessary drama that someone walks into the studio with, in a very short amount of time, it's missing. It's gone. So everything simplifies. And that's the thing that many people tend to notice, how easy everything tends to become when we're in this balanced state.
Love that. Now, you spoke about this a while back, but could you talk to us about the origins of Alphabiotics? Who created it or who discovered it?
It was created by Dr. Virgil Crane in the late 20s. It was not called Alphabiotics then. It was considered the big idea. And it was established in the state of Texas, different cities throughout different times. And it was passed down from to his son, who then created it and labeled it as Alphabiotics in the late 70s. And the main way to look at it was that there was never a chiropractic adjustment done. It was just that they found that this lengthening process, it opens the floodgates to your body, in essence. And so again, it comes back to that realizing gravity is one of the most ultimate physical culprits that people have to deal with. I mean, it wins in the end anyway. So it's about how well do you function while you're alive on this planet. They found out later that it was some sort of energetic reset effect and what it was doing more of. And it was 200 to 300 people a day were coming in to receive this process for many decades. And now, under Michael Crane, Virgil's son, he has really perfected this process. The way that it's taught, the way that we learn it now is through 8 months. Once a month, we go to Dallas, Texas for 3 to 4 days in learning this incredible technique. It's much like learning a golf swing. It's a repetitive motion over and over and over to really get your body dialed in, because you're using your body in a very unique way that takes time for the body to train. And obviously there's a philosophy to it. So again, it's helping people use their life energy back the way that it's supposed to. It's not that we are the doctor and telling another person's body how it's supposed to be, how it's supposed to function, or what the problems are with it. It's really none of our business, because it's about empowering you. Unlike the medical model nowadays is to disempower the individual, tell them what's wrong with them, give them more symptoms of what's wrong with them, and it really just comes down to helping people come back from a stress response.
So, firstly, thanks a lot for that explanation and that clarification. So let me ask a question that I'm sure is on everyone's mind right now, is how often does a person need to get this alignment done? And is it going to be a bit expensive?
No, it's very cost effective, fortunately. So it would be very similar to someone paying for a copay through insurance. So it's supposed to be affordable. That's what healthcare is all about. The other thing is, we ask that someone comes in at the beginning, especially if they've been in a stress state like this for many, many years, about 2 to 3 times a week. It takes about 2 to 3 months to get someone to hold this alignment longer periods of time. And so the average person holds this alignment at the beginning for about 3 days, 48 to 72 hours, somewhere in that bracket. And then as they keep coming in, we'll measure that their strength is restored and sustained throughout each visit, that they're holding alignment. And then we start backing off the visits. And the goal, again, is to back off as long as possible between each visit. Unfortunately, from what I've seen myself, I haven't seen anybody hold alignment any longer than about 14 days. And it does take about 2 to 3 months to get to that place. But nothing else does that kind of result. And it's not about making somebody feel good, although everybody wants to achieve that. It's not about getting anybody out of pain, although everybody wants to be pain-free. It's about using their life energy the best way possible throughout. And the results that we get are incredibly profound. And over time, people actually start to notice the difference. That's the place we want to get them at. That when they're holding alignment for these 2-3 months, and it's kind of a natural process that people will start to back it off when they feel good. They'll skip visits or prolong the sessions. And at one point, they'll start figuring out, man, I'm not feeling too good anymore. I'm starting to have these negative thoughts, and I just feel like I'm feeling clogged. I'm feeling cruddy. And that's when they know they need to come back in for an alignment. And that's really a good place to have somebody get to, because now they're taking responsibility for their own well-being.
Got it.
It's a lifelong process. It never ends.
Now, I also read that the energy goes where it needs to go. Is that correct?
It does.
So my question is, where is this energy coming from, and why is it not readily absorbed when we're not in this state, when we're not in a state of alignment? You might have answered this a bit, but I just wanted to get some more clarity on this.
Well, there is a life energy that everybody has. You need to have it. You can live without food for many, many weeks. You can live without water for several days. You can live without air for a minute, perhaps, but you cannot live without this life energy for 1 second. So the brain, again, is just an energy transmission device. It's using everything as energy. Einstein and Max Planck and over 100 years ago have come up with quantum mechanics and quantum physics. And, it's different than Newtonian physics, where everything is a mechanical approach to things, like a mechanical watch. If a gear breaks, you just replace that. And, we're looking at everything now as energy and information. You may not be able to see it. You may not be able to hear it, but it exists. It's there. And we're just helping people use this life energy in a more appropriate way. So much like a car, you cannot run an incredible automobile with wonderful horsepower, Ferrari or anything with just high-end components, and put in really poor gasoline. So there's a combination that an individual, to sustain health and well-being and balance, needs to have. One is positive thinking is very important, a good state of mental acuity. The other one is physical balance, how well you are structurally is going to be a big determinant in how well you do in life. The other thing is, what kind of fuel are you putting into your body? Yeah. So that's a big conversation that we tend to have here in the States. I'm sure in other places as well, where there's modified food, and that's a different topic all in itself. Yeah. But cheeseburgers and fries, I don't think would do anybody too well for a long period of time. Clean oxygen. So there's definitely several components to make it all work well. It's not just one thing. So, for example, the alphabiotic alignment is not the cure-all. It's not the thing that will do everything for everybody. It's a combination. And again, it comes back to self-responsibility.
Perfect. Now, just so that our listeners can get a better idea, could you talk to us about some of the known diseases or ailments that can be healed through Alphabiotics and the alignment?
Unfortunately, I can't, because in our line of work, we don't heal, treat, cure any of these symptoms that people have. The other thing also, what's so interesting is when people often come in for various ailments, and we do the alignment on everybody the same way. So we don't change the alignment for for every other person depending on their ailment. It's exactly the same. And the amazing thing really is about how someone shifts, how much better they feel, how much better they operate, how much more useful they are to everyone else at work, in their love life, when there's this integration that occurs once again. And that's really the way that we tend to look at things. So it's unfortunate I can't answer in saying that we cure or fix any of them. We don't promise that to anybody either. We just let them know that it's their body that's going to fix this stuff, which is more empowering than looking from an outside source trying to get results. Because now there's an irresponsibility to it. I mean, if someone still has like a horrible drug abuse problems and doesn't eat well and works, 90 hours a week and they come in for alignments and they think, why doesn't it just work the way that I want it to work? That's up to them. They got to start looking and making some corrective changes in their lives, which oftentimes people do. It's kind of amazing how they start to want to go on cleanses and change even the person they have been in a relationship with for a while, because oftentimes those relationships are codependent and toxic. And when someone becomes more alive, awake, and aware, it's really fascinating to see the changes that take place on their own, as opposed to, people that do these weekend courses where they get really jazzed up and they're really excited and ready for these changes in their lives. And by Monday, they're really feeling groovy. And then Wednesday, they go back to their old patterns. Again, they don't change. And with the alignment, we're able to help people sustain these changes for the better.
Got it. So what I'm getting is, instead of just talking about a list of diseases or ailments, what you're saying is that any of these diseases or ailments, more often than not, stem from an internal state of imbalance, right? And you're going straight to the root cause and dealing with this imbalance, whatever that might be. And once that is taken care of, in many cases, or if not in most cases, the person feels much better. The stress is dealt with, which I've read is cause for most of the ailments. And once the root cause is taken care of, what you're doing is you're trying to lengthen the duration of the alignment. Over a period of time, the person feels better and is cured again. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, it was actually really well said. It is.
Thanks.
Very much so. The incredible thing is how simple this process is, how fast and effective it is. And I'm in Los Angeles. I've worked with very well-to-do people, those who are very famous, those who have incredible access to various types of fancy machines, amazing this, amazing that.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of money, a lot of jazzed up stuff, and it's short-lived. It just doesn't, for the long term, does not get a sustainable level of results. And it's just amazing how simple something is, but it's all grassroots. So there aren't many of us out there doing this line of work. But we're working on that. So if someone is actually truly interested in doing this type of work, it's incredibly invaluable. Very, very I couldn't say enough about how great this work is.
So David, what does science and research have to say about Alphabiotics?
Well, science is showing the proof that something works in the end and that you're able to replicate it. Scientific method, so to speak. And we're able to do this every single time. Muscle testing, showing the physical structural imbalance. So those are already some items that we're able to show. We have not had any university or any outside source really doing any studies. We have done some in-house. We have had I believe he's a physicist among many other things, from Belgium, by the name of Mark von Krinas. And he has done many studies with students in Belgium on doing the alignment and what is he found through this process, because he was really fascinated when he experienced the process himself. This was performed back in the mid to late 90s, and he found how the brain slows down to this alpha speed, how it integrates, how the muscles will relax, how other sides contract, how there's life energy, the blood flow goes back into the core, so digestion improves, because digestion when you're stressed is not a priority. So there's all these components that he found. I mean, it's a list of them. We've used a Carillion camera to show how heat will travel to different sources of the body afterwards. It's just that we haven't published any of this information for the world to see. But we know it works because we've seen it many, many times over. And the downfall with doing studies, for anybody who's done this and seen it, there's always someone out there who wants to debunk or disbelieve it. And it takes no money, takes no energy to debunk or disbelieve anything. And you see in the society that many people will have beliefs. Well, beliefs aren't necessarily true. So someone could believe something and for it to not work or be right and then go around saying information that's incorrect, it tends to muddy the water. So, we're trying to really keep this process as pure and simple and accurate as possible. And so far, we've done an amazing job. I'd have to say that's pretty much it. Again, it is experiential. So. Reiki, on the other hand, is wonderful. It's really amazing. And someone, again, would have to experience it. But for some people, it's too subtle. Some people are so wound up, so blocked, so tight that it would take them a sledgehammer to feel anything. So, again, it's different for everybody. Some people experience acupuncture and some people experience the wonderful benefits from it. Other people it's just not for them. You'll get that with anything.
So, especially with Reiki.
Some people just
especially with Reiki, these are subtle energies, right? And sometimes your body needs to develop the sensitivity in order to experience that energy, that warmth, that tingly feeling. And I'm sure when they do it, it's wonderful. But in some cases, like you mentioned, it takes some time. Now, David, our listeners love to hear stories. So could you talk to us about a patient who considered Alphabiotics, went through it, and experienced a transformative healing experience? Of course, the patient could remain anonymous, but just a story would be awesome.
There are so many. Since the process only takes about a minute to do, in our line of work, we're able to see many, many people in a day or in a week or in a month. After a while, you tend to get used to seeing miraculous things occur. On a physical standpoint, someone who has been using a walker or someone who's been bedridden for many years, I remember having to do the alignment when they are on the bed because they're so big they couldn't move off the bed. And then after doing the process for some time, of course, they're feeling better about themselves, changing their nutrition, feeling more strength and power and energy in their body, and the result, of course, is that they're walking among us. They're out of bed.
Nice.
Truly one of my favorites is on an emotional component on how some kids of different ages, right around 10 years old, were absolutely horrific to deal with. And this family, a well-to-do family, tried everything in the books to help their kid. Anyway, so they found me through a friend, and I was aligning their son, and in a short amount of time, he became more calm. He was able to focus on doing any of his studies. As simple as it may sound, really, it's wonderful when you see a family that's been going through so much and they're elated, truly elated. And the other thing also that helped out was aligning the family. Because of the stress, it just shares it through the entire household. So when the kids come in for alignments, I mandate that the parents get aligned as well. That makes a big difference.
Love that. So David, thanks a lot for sharing so many ideas and things about Alphabiotics based on your experience. And it's clear that you're doing so much, right? You're obviously on a quest to change people's lives. And from what you've shared, you regularly meet patients. So my question is, what happens when you get stressed out or out of charge? How do you handle or cope up with it?
Well, fortunately, there is a fellow alphabioticist in the neighborhood who also gets stressed out, and we swap alignments on a weekly basis, sometimes twice a week, but fortunately it's at least once a week, and that's how I'm able to it's such a difference, I have to tell you. When there isn't anybody around and you're doing anything of this nature, everybody has stress. I don't care who you are. And to stay on top of it can be an incredible challenge. This just makes it much easier. So it's definitely a lifelong purpose. And fortunately to him, when we swap alignments, everything gets much easier. I haven't found anything as close to this work except flotation tanks, which are coming back into popularity once again.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot. I haven't tried it, but definitely
it's
looking
wonderful.
forward to doing that.
I suggest it.
Got it. So how did you first come across Alphabiotics? What was your initial experience and reaction like?
I had a motorcycle group every Sunday morning, a group of guys going up to the local canyons. And One of them was sharing about what they do, as what most people do. And I've never heard this before. I thought it was chiropractic. I mean, I thought it was some sort of just fascinating head pulling experience, so to speak. And he talked about this imbalance. And I didn't have any pain or discomfort, but I had a curiosity. I experienced the alignment. I was absolutely enamored from it. It was nothing like what I thought it was going to be like. And I, as he suggested, kept on coming back for following up visits. And in a short amount of time, I was so amazed, really, at what it did for me and watching other people. I said, I've got to do this. This is it. And I've been in love with it since, and I've been doing it for 10 years now.
That's awesome. It's funny how time just flies, right? So love that you shared it.
The longest job I've ever had.
Nice. Now, our listeners are all about taking action. So what is that one action step that you'd like to recommend for our listeners based on what we've discussed and shared today?
Well, first and foremost, contact me directly at alphabioticstudio.com, or you can email me at david@alphabioticstudio.com. You can also contact the Alphabiotic Academy held in Dallas, Texas at Alphabiotic, I think it's alphabioticacademy.info. But even if you just Google that directly, you'll be able to find it. If you're in the Los Angeles area, or if you know someone who lives in this area, have them contact me. Or depending where you live, I'll be able to find someone who might be doing this work in your neck of the woods. And I highly, highly recommend the experience. You cannot compare it to anything else out there.
Love that. Thanks a lot for sharing. I'm always looking for a new challenge. There are a lot of mountains to climb out there. When I run out of mountains, I build a new one. This is an amazing quote by Sylvester Stallone, aka Rocky Balboa. Action Tribe, one of my goals with this show is to change the way we look at a challenge or an obstacle. I want to assure you that challenges are here to serve you and to help you grow. So no matter what you're going through right now, whether it is a financial trouble, illness or disease or relationship issues, those challenges are not here to stay, they are here to pass. But it's really important that you have faith and keep taking action. Once you realize this simple truth, you will change the way you look at life. Just like Sylvester Stallone, you will begin to look for mountains to overcome, or you will build out your own mountains to mount. So David, talk to us about a time when you experienced a major life challenge. What did you actually go through during that phase, and how did you come out of it?
Oh my goodness. Well, there's a few I could certainly share. Well, one out of many that do happen was around 2008. There's definitely an economic crisis going on here, and essentially, it was losing everything that I had built up at that time. And I'd say that putting it out in the universe, asking for help, was certainly one step. And then being more clear on how the universe was to show up and help out. And sometimes when I remember feeling incredibly desperate, and as though this was also an endless battle. The big thing I found that was most helpful was being of service for other people, and without an attachment to an outcome, was simply just being available for others. And I found that it was very healing for myself, and that it also paid it forward for others. So it was actually stepping back into community, getting out of ego, selfishness, and realizing how fulfilling it was and how daunting it looked at the time. But boy, it's very bright light after going through those types of challenges. Everybody experiences them, and I don't wish it on anybody, but if anything at all, it's making sure to be of service.
So based on your story, based on what you went through, what is it one major life lesson that you'd like to share with our listeners if you had to define it in one sentence?
Listen to others, be patient, and stay focused on what you would like to achieve, and be gracious with others.
Love that. Thanks a lot for sharing. I love that when you faced that life challenge, that obstacle, you focused on serving people around you. You focused on stepping out into the community and getting or letting go of that ego. So thanks a lot for sharing that wisdom with us. And Action Tribe, as you head out towards transforming your life, remember that change is not easy. And even though I might not know you personally right now, I do know that you are a warrior being because you are taking the time to listen to a show like this. Out of all the qualities needed to transform, the one that I hold closest to my heart is my genuine curiosity to uncover the mysteries of life. My urge, question how the world works around me. I used to be curious as a kid, but over the years I began conforming to society and doing exactly as I was told and becoming less and less curious. The moment I rekindled my innate curiosity, that's when things really changed for me. So if you've forgotten what it feels like to be curious, now is your moment. Boldly step into your adventure of life, ask questions, and take massive action. And David, you shared with us a quote of Albert Einstein. I'm going to share one right now because as Albert Einstein once said, I have no special talents. I am only passionately curious. So, David, have you found your life's calling? And if yes, what is your life's calling as on today?
I have, and fortunately I found it 10 years ago. And I intend to do this as long as I physically can. It's unquestionably one of the most wonderful things. I couldn't imagine doing anything else, really.
Now, during our show, I love to talk about defining moments. You've made so much change in your life and those of people around you. What is the one defining moment that really changed things for you?
It really was right around that time that I experienced this alignment, the very first time, not knowing how something like that existed. I was 24 years old, so wasn't on this planet for a whole long time, and that was really the big shift for me, and not realizing how much the world offers, how much information is out there. And when exploring new things, it just seems endless. It's much like what Einstein had quoted about an incredible passion for learning. It's the same. It's really incredible with what we're able to do when we have a chance. I mean, there's just no accident as to where we are during this time and who we are. It's quite fascinating.
Love that. And with that, we've arrived at the very last round for today, the wisdom round. Comprised of 4 questions, short and actionable. So my first question is, what is the best advice that someone has ever given you, David?
One thing that I probably was kind of interesting. One was someone says, go get a life. And it was actually good advice when I heard it. Because it shakes you up. I mean, it actually kind of, oh, wow, okay, well, you can't really argue with that. All right, that works. The other one was how you do one thing is how you do everything. And that is very true.
Love that. Name a personal habit that keeps you going every single day.
Going to sleep with a clear conscience and waking up with a new challenge every day.
So speaking about waking up, what is your morning routine like?
Oh, this is going to be a horrible confession. I wish I could make this up. It is waking up about 9 in the morning in beautiful Southern California weather in a very peaceful, quiet home and starting work at 11 and finishing at 2. So it's a very condensed work day and it's pleasant. I always have 1 cup of coffee. And it's pretty much it. And there's a mixture of different things that goes on through there. But that's a guaranteed item that people would know about if they ever asked. They know never to call before 9 a.m.
Love that. So it means that you really, really value and enjoy your sleep and relaxation.
So much. Oh, yeah. And the dreams. I love the dreams.
So name a book that you'd like to recommend for our listeners today.
It would be Bruce Lipton, and it would be called Biology Belief. It was written several years ago, still very current. He's a cellular biologist who talks about epigenetics, which means above the gene, and how diseases are expressed through our genes. The perception of the environment is what gets those genes to express. So it's our belief systems. That is a very big component to our diseases and disharmony in life is our belief system.
So Action Tribe, I know how much you love our book recommendations, and I know that many of you purchase these books as soon as you hear them shared on our show. And that's why Audible.com is offering Action Tribe one free audiobook download with a 30-day free trial so that you can get to check out their amazing service. Now, Audible has over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, or Kindle, including bestsellers like The Chakra System by Anadea Judith, Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda, and A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/MSC. Once again, that's audibletrial.com/MSC for your free audiobook. So David, thank you so much for joining us today and talking to us about Alphabiotics. Before you go, tell us one thing that you are super grateful for, and tell us how we can find you online.
I am super grateful for you having this radio show and having me on so I can spread the word about this. And for anybody who's listening out there to take action in looking more into this. And you're able to find me at www.alphabioticstudio.com. And you can contact me directly if you wish at 310-384-4247.
Awesome. We'll have the link up in the show notes as well. Once again, thank you for coming on our show, talking to us about Alphabiotic alignment and having a whole brain experience, integrating both hemispheres of the brain and taking us one step closer to a human revolution.
Thank you for having me on the show, AJ. It was wonderful.
You were listening to My Seven Chakras. Go to mysevenchakras.com. Download your free gift, get inspired, and take action. Transform your life today.